Almost. Hey, good morning, LinkedIn. I'm so happy to see you, but equally important, I am so happy that we're talking about this topic today, operationalizing compassion. And I am thrilled to pieces to introduce our guest today, Scott Shute. Thank you so much for joining. And in case anybody didn't see the banner that I was promoting this event for, Scott is the previous head of compassion and mindfulness from LinkedIn. Also,
Yeah, pretty cool.
among these two, the VP of Global Customer Operations. And so before the show, we were talking about these two seemingly disparate ideas and how it can sound like operationalizing compassion is an oxymoron. So what I would love to do, and thank you also, I will put the link for Scott's TED Talk and his book called Full Body Yes. So thank you so much again for coming on, and tell us a little bit about how your interest in combining those two seemingly
Sure. How did this happen?
together happened when you were put on the spot with Jeff Weiner.
Well, I've had a meditation practice since I was 13. It's been a huge part of my life. I've been teaching since I was in college. And I got to LinkedIn about 9 or 10 years ago and realized it was such an open place that I finally was able to bring my practice to work. I started just by leading a session on a Thursday, at 4:30. Oh, that first time there was one person there. I'm sure he was just as terrified as I was. I never saw that dude again. But it just kind of grew into a thing, and over time I became the executive sponsor of our mindfulness program. We didn't really have one. So myself and a bunch of other volunteers created one. And we did that for 3 or 4 years. And then the tipping point was our CEO, Jeff Weiner, CEO at the time, gave the commencement address at Wharton about 3 years ago. And he talked about compassion. If you're going to be successful in life or business, be compassionate. And I was thinking, okay, I'm watching all this, like, it's time. It's time. Well, first of all, look, Jeff, you just told 15,000 employees that compassion was the most important thing we could do. But what does that even mean? What do they do when they go back to their desk? And also I was ready for a new challenge. So made a proposal to Jeff and our head of HR, and with their great support, created this role, head of mindfulness and compassion programs, where my vision
heads up, everybody, action taker, right? He saw an opportunity. He presented it to some kind of important people over at LinkedIn, and voila, it happened. Good for you. Yay, round of applause.
Yeah. And so my vision, my mission was to change work from the inside out by mainstreaming mindfulness and operationalizing compassion. And that's even after I've left LinkedIn, that is still my primary role.
Absolutely. And so give us a little bit of a breakdown of what operationalizing compassion is all about, and the difference between compassion and empathy, easily overlapping and confusing.
Sure. Let's do that one first. So the difference between empathy and compassion is fairly straightforward. It's not quite this simple, but you could think of it as compassion is empathy plus action. Right? So if I have empathy for someone, I feel what they're feeling. And sometimes that feeling what they're feeling can get in the way of me taking action. So if you think of it from a leader's perspective or CEO's perspective, if somebody comes into my office and they tell me their story, yes, if I have empathy, I might feel compelled to act on their behalf. But compassion is seeing things clearly, right? It's taking that next step. It's moving beyond like just being in it and being able to see the whole field, like what's best for the whole. What action do I need to take right here? And so compassion is, here's my definition for compassion, 3 steps. It's the capacity to have awareness of others, a mindset of wishing the best for them, and then the courage to take action.
Oh, I need you to repeat that.
The 3 things. It's all about capacity, because our capacity ebbs and flows on a minute by minute basis. The first one's awareness, right? And I need to be aware of myself first. This is where mindfulness comes in. So awareness of others is first. Second is a mindset of wishing the best for them. You could say a mindset of kindness. So not only am I aware of them, I want what's best for them.
Awesome.
And then the third one is the courage to take action,
Wow.
right? Not only do I notice it, but I have the resources internally, the internal resources to actually do something about it.
Oh, this is super, super important because it's so when you have empathy, it's good. You're feeling, you're connecting, but it's void of the implementation or the execution
Exactly.
of the action.
Yeah.
Ooh, good, good. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So
You want to talk about,
fantastic.
should we talk
Fantastic.
about operationalizing it? What does this look
Yes,
like? Sure. So if you said, well, okay, I'm at this company, but how do I put this into practice? It works the same way for your customers, right? Awareness, think about a salesperson or a product person or a marketing person. You want to be aware of your customers. You
Mm,
want to know exactly who they are and what they're trying to do and what they need. Two is a mindset of kindness or mindset of wishing the best for them. I want what's best for my customers. I honestly want to provide value for them. And then three is the courage to take action. Here's where it gets hard, right? Okay, so here's some examples. A head of sales could stand in front of X thousand people at kickoff and say, look, our job is to provide long-term value, long-term value. So don't sell something our customers don't need, especially at the end of the quarter, just so you can hit your quota. Like that's not what we do, right?
right.
That's different than how maybe some of us were trained when we were just starting as salespeople. Or in product, a product manager can come pitch their new version of what they're doing to the product executive team. And it says, all right, well, based on these things we're going to do, we're going to get 22% more clicks or 22% more engagement. First question, great, but what's the member experience like? What's the customer experience like?
Totally.
Well, hey, did I mention we're going to get 22% more clicks? No. So a leader's job is to say, no, that's not how we work. We create a balance, right? Yes, we want to win. We want to be successful. But it starts by creating a balance between our customers, our employees, and us. And turns out the math is there. The research is
Right.
there.
This is what this is like. This is so for anyone out there thinking, ooh, this is just a bunch of woo-woo. Let's bring this home with the meat, right? Because I mean, not that the compassion part isn't important, but so many of us are so business minded. Well, how does this change things? How does this make a difference in my business or with my employees? So
Yeah,
bring it on,
sure.
Scott.
So companies who create a balance, all of their stakeholders, that means creating a great environment for their employees and acting in these three ways towards their employees, doing the same thing for customers and their shareholders. They are 14 times, that's 1,400% more profitable than the S&P average, right? In other words, this is not some woo-woo thing. This is, yes, it's how to build a better world, but it's also how to build a better business. It's how to have a better financial statement. And it's true because you see it in your own relationships. So
Mm,
think about our primary relationship or our relationships. In that two people, if I demand that I get what I want 100% of the time, and I only focus on what I want, I am going to be less happy over time, right? Because it's going to not go well for me. If
right.
I want to be happy, I need to solve for both of us, right? And create a balance between the two of us. And in companies, it works exactly the same way.
Eureka, right? And it sounds sometimes counterintuitive,
Yeah,
right? Because so much of our corporate life is how am I going to get ahead?
that's right.
How do I look good? How
That's
do
right.
how do I climb the ladder? How do I change my title so that it's bigger and better? And that, of course, is a lot of ego too, right?
That's right.
And
And,
so I
and
think that
that's why mindfulness and compassion fit together, right? Because the more I practice mindfulness, the same three things apply to myself. The more I become aware of myself, the more I have a mindset of kindness or love myself, And the more I'm willing to take action on behalf of myself, responsibility, really, self-responsibility. This comes from the practice of developing my own self-awareness. And then I move away from just thinking about me, and my own needs. And I start to see that, oh, there's other people out there too. And the more I solve in my own life for us, the better off I am.
Fantastic. I just want to give a couple shout outs to some great people who are joining. Hi, Rashab. Always so happy to have you in the house. And Rashab is a entrepreneurial leader. And so I'm super happy that he's joining. Sonal, thank you so much. Sonal also had referenced in her comment when I was promoting this about this Stanford talk. So she's a big fan of this practice. Also, Jeff Young, in case anybody doesn't know, Superman is here. He is a big compassion leader. Ken Lang, always great to have you. Lisa, thanks so much for joining. And Rosemary, I couldn't agree with you more. Mindset to wish them the best is imperative because it generates positive energy. So when you're ready to gossip and backstab, like that is not the mindset of compassion, just saying. And Christine, you hurt yourself the most when you're an a-hole. Serving others is also serving yourself. So great points. And thank you all for joining. I want to take this into a little bit of a different area because what I also want to better understand is now you're in the process. You're a hiring manager or you're even a candidate. Where does operationalizing compassion come into play with either of those two audiences?
Sure. Okay, so let's break them up. So let's say you're on the hiring manager side of thing. You're looking for candidates. Everybody knows it's your biggest resource, and these are big decisions. So it starts with taking care on your internal team, right? If again, me, if I just go hire my friend or somebody who looks and sounds like me, I bring that person in, but I didn't take into account what the needs are of the whole organization, then that's going to be problematic, right? So it starts with awareness. What is the best candidate for what we need? And not just about me, but for the us inside, because probably this person's going to touch, going to be impactful in more of the organization. That's the starter point. Then I'm looking at these candidates. Okay, do I hire the absolute best technical person, even though they're a jackass? No. I need to have some very clear rules. We need to have some very clear rules about the type of organization we're going to build. Right. And that same type of balance and thinking forward, how is this person going to serve our customers? How are they going to serve our fellow employees? Are they going to fit into our company culture? And so I might probe a little and see what type of person are they? Do they have this at the root? Do they have kind of a service mentality or a we mentality, built in? Right. So instead of just saying, are they technically the best? Are they holistically the best? And on the other side, as a candidate, I want to make the same filtered choices. Do I take that job even though it pays more, but I know they're going to work me to death and they have a crappy culture? No. I mean, maybe there's seasons of person's life where money is the most important thing, but most of us have choice. Most of us are not living in poverty, right? Most of us have choice in the white collar world. And so as we have choice, choose companies that employ these principles. Choose a manager who's going to invest in you, who employs these principles, who has compassion at the roots. And then you yourself live it, right? If you're living it, you'll attract companies who are also living it. And if you're not living it, then good luck.
Exactly. So if you spot it, you got it, right? I know that's a little on the cliche side, but if you are somebody who is practicing this, it's very difficult for you to align with a company that is not not doing the deal. And so start here and let it emanate out, right? And I think that is so much of what you were talking about, changing work from the inside out.
That's right.
Right? Inside out. Start here and then let it move on forward as you are hiring on your team. What are some of the questions that a hiring manager or even a candidate would want to do some sniff testing around in order to identify whether these people are the real deal?
That's a good question. Okay. Well, our audience can probably chime in here too, but
Yeah.
I would be looking for, how they handled a difficult situation. How do they handle conflict? If I asked them when the last time they were angry was and what that was about, and kind of like, I'd have to think about this, but try to get into a situation of when they were challenged and how they responded to it, especially about other people, or I listen to the stories that they tell. And in the stories that they tell, you sometimes get a flavor for how this person operates in the world. Are they short with other people? Are they just thinking about themselves? Do they talk poorly about others? Or are they generally positive? Are they generally generative,
Mhm.
about other people? Are they forgiving?
Mm.
In the little things, like the barista at the coffee line, gives them the wrong thing. How do they respond to that when they're in a hurry? That will tell you a lot about somebody.
Hmm. Right. When they're in a hurry. I remember back in the days when I was dating, I wanted to see how the person that I was meeting with handled not finding a parking spot.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
or or being stuck in bumper to bumper traffic.
Yeah.
Those are good litmus tests, right?
That's right.
Are they
That's
turning on
right.
the radio, or is the steam coming out of their ear? What are
Right.
you doing? And so
Totally.
use good common sense ways to probe a little bit. And gosh only knows, there have been so many frustrating situations during this pandemic. uh, Over winter break, pretty much everyone was sick with COVID. And so how have they handled situations like that when their entire team is either out for themselves or out because of their children?
Yeah.
And what does that mean, and how have they handled that? So I think that there are some ready-made, unfortunate but valuable situations that you can incorporate to do that sniff testing. I think that is so fantastic. Thank you so much for that. That's super helpful. I'm getting a lot of great pieces in here. Thank you. Yes, skills versus culture versus learning ability and agility. I'll add that in there. And yes, some good questions on how they have behaved. So many people say, oh, I have a toxic boss, I have a toxic boss, it's a toxic work environment. If you are in the process of changing jobs, well, don't do more of that. Right? And learn
Right.
from it. So
That's
I
right.
also really wanted to drill down, because you have these numbers like on the ready, with the echo and the exponential impact that practicing mindfulness has in terms of the individual, and what's been happening over the last 10 years or so with
Sure.
people not doing it, and the
Sure.
impact it's having on our world and workplace.
Sure. Well, just kind of a state of the union for our mental wellness, let's say. Workplace surveys tell us over 80% of people are feeling emotionally drained. The
Mhm.
CDC does a weekly survey, found that about a third of us in America suffer from anxiety or depression. CDC will also tell us about 1 in 9 Americans in the last 30 days, this is the most disturbing to me, 1 in 9 seriously considered taking their own life. Right? So this is a very real situation that we are in. COVID and everything else, but it was building up to it. COVID was just, the icing on the cake. And I think all of this leads us to this place where, here's my belief. My belief is that life never gives us more than we can handle, but
Mhm.
it sometimes gives us more than we can handle with our current recipe.
Mm.
So a lot of people are forced in the last couple of years to do things differently. They are like, I'm willing to try anything. So
Oh yeah, good and desperate is a wonderful place for change.
right. So in March of 2020, the usage in these meditation apps like Headspace and 10% Happier and Wise at Work went up by 25% just in that 1 month, right? Over the last 5 years, the number of people who are meditating has tripled, and sometimes even more depending on the survey you read. And so here's the thing. I believe that this pandemic and this situation the last 2 years has been a gift. Now, hang with me. Maybe not physically for some, or emotionally, or mentally, or even financially for some, but spiritually, like at the deepest, deepest level, it's been a gift because it's forced us all in some way or another to turn inward and ask ourselves, what's most important to me? I've been on autopilot for the last X years, and this is like a bump in the road that switched to autopilot, and I have to choose. And this, now you see it, the big reshuffle as it relates to work. Like, wait a minute, I'm not going to do this work anymore. I'm not going to work for this job or this boss or this industry.
Right. Bye-bye, road warrior.
Right. And so you see all of these people going inward. And when I ask people what's most important to them, what's most alive for them in the last 2 years, there's only two things that they ever say, what they're grateful for. And one is their relationships, their loved ones, and two is their health. Right. And so it's less about the promotion and foot on the gas and where my kid gets into school. It's like really, things got really simple. Like, I just want to be healthy and I want to have good relationships. I want to love. I want to be with people that I love. It's simplified everything. And from that perspective, we grow. And then that growth allows us to deal with the very real challenges that exist.
Right. Pressure, long-term unemployment, ageism, which comes up often. You know, there's all kinds of factors in the work world, in the job search. And this is, I mean, I find it fascinating because this is a free tool. It's portable.
Yeah,
you can take it anywhere and it's timeless. You can use it whenever you need to. And so this one thing is actually a magnificent tool and opportunity. And we're still getting a lot of really supportive comments. Life doesn't give us more than we can handle, but sometimes it does give us more than we can handle alone. And so that's part of the recipe, right? Is changing that recipe. I love that.
That's how Christine said.
Yeah, go ahead.
Christine said, life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. Yes. And then when we're really in tune, there's another step. We move from life is happening for us to life is happening through us, where we can be a coworker with whatever you want to call it, the universe, the divine.
I love this. I also, thank you, Jay. He goes by Jay. One of my biggest hiring processes is leave the job-related question and move beyond the present picture as shown, throwing the BS point, and let's see, are they open to questioning me? So inviting that collaboration, inviting an opportunity for some compassion instead of being talked at or talked to, which so often job candidates feel like, oh my God, should I ask this tough question? Yeah, bring it on.
Absolutely.
Get it out. And then Kelly, so happy to see you. The pandemic did accelerate the prioritization of our personal life and health. Nothing like a vicious wake-up call to say what is really important at the end of the day. When I put my head on the pillow, you know, is it the extra $200 in my wallet, or is it the fact that my kids are, you know, doing happy dances? So there's a lot there. Priorities got really simple during COVID. Indeed, well said. Those two areas, what you're grateful for and your health, because those things are priceless. And anybody who's had health issues, and some of the ones you had amplified, right? The depression, the risk of suicide, those things are chronic.
Yeah, another interesting kind of statistic is that in a recent workplace survey, 9 out of 10 Americans, 9 out of 10 said that they would work for less money for more meaning in their role. And to go further, we talk about company culture. Company culture is 12 times as powerful as compensation in determining whether somebody's going to stay or go. Right? So we often focus on the money, just like in the me, we focus on our own, you know, kind of accelerant into career. But the truth is, money gets us so far, and there's a baseline. We want to be fairly compensated. But after that, it serves almost no motivating long-term factor over the long term.
Wow.
What is long-term is company culture. And people stay at companies and organizations where they have regular work, their job schedules are regular, whether they have a good boss, whether they get recognition, it's a good culture, and they leave toxic work environments. They leave where they have irregular work or a jerk boss or, feeling like it's a cutthroat place.
Right. So you said 9 out of 10 Americans, 90% said that they would work for less for more meaning.
That's right.
So probably a very unpopular thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you are using the job boards, right, and you see that job, please go deeper so that you are in alignment with what that is, so that the meaning comes out, not just the job as a poster or as some kind of a static thing. Your job affects your relationships and everything else in your life, your pocketbook, how you spend your time. These are loaded. And so make that decision carefully. And one last, you had a separate statistic also, 9 out of 10 said they will work for less. And I just want to capture this second point that you made.
The second point was that company culture is 12 times as big of a factor versus compensation in whether somebody stays or goes.
So
12 times.
12 times as
big of a factor, in whether people leave the company or not.
So this is so people stay for culture, not for money, right?
Yeah,
and we hear about this retention, and we hear about the lack of it, right? I mean, right. What was it? Something like 10 million people left their jobs without another job. For a quarter of that audience of 10 million left with no other plan in place.
Yeah.
So, AKA, it's pretty bad here, and I got to bolt.
Yeah. So the net of all of this is that if you want to build a successful business, have compassion at the root. And if you have compassion at the root, by nature, you'll build a culture that has meaning. You'll build a culture that is thinking about making the world a better place. You may never even use that language, but that's what's at the heart of it. And this is what people are craving. After 2 years of nonsense, people want real. They want love in their lives. They want to be healthy. They want their work to matter, because if their work matters, their life matters, right? Think about the 1 in 9 who are seriously considering suicide. If their work matters, their life matters.
Mic drop, for sure. If your work matters, your life matters. And I completely believe that and practice that myself. Lisa Rangel, love it. Thank you. I find the novelty of landing more money wears off after 3 to 4 months. Then they're unhappy, but possibly addicted to the money, the recipe for unhappiness. We've all heard the cliche of the golden handcuffs. I can't leave. I'm making so money. I'm going to stay here until I'm vested. But in the meantime, I'm killing myself.
Yeah. Or relationships. Think about it like a relationship. Oh, you dated the really pretty or handsome person who's a whatever. And because of this is what society told you to do, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, everybody wants this person, so I must want them too. But then you're stuck with them and all this stuff. Same works for companies. Oh yeah, I made more money, but I work for a boss I don't care for, and I do work that I don't really like. And like, we have been climbing the wrong mountains. Right?
Yes.
And this is why the mindfulness stuff fits in. When we practice self-awareness, we start to realize we already have everything we need from the inside out. Right? One of my favorite quotes is from Rumi, 13th century Persian poet and spiritual master. He says, "Yesterday I was clever and I tried to change the world. But today I'm wise and I'm working on changing myself."
So fantastic. Please get the book, Full Body Yes by Scott Shute. And also, he has a TED Talk. So if you want to know more about changing work from the inside out, and also I have to do a shout out. Scott is also on Insight Timer. If you don't know that, he teaches mindfulness and that's how I discovered him, by listening, and his voice is wonderful and his message is powerful. So I cannot thank you enough, Scott, for joining today and helping all of us better understand nuances between compassion and empathy, how it works in the workplace, some of the hard-hitting numbers, and overall operationalizing compassion. You are wonderful, and I know you have given so much today to so many people, and you made our day. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thanks
All
for
right.
having me. Thanks,
And
everyone.
thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.